Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. We're going to look at the NFL Week 8. We're going to preview the Week 8 games, but before we do, I want to bring in our host, Vincent Turner. I'm Harper LeBel. Vincent, last week in Week 7, we had 2 undefeated teams, and now we are down to only 1, where Detroit ends up beating Minnesota. The Vikings now have 1 loss. Detroit has 1 as well. What a tight division that they've got there in the NFC North. But the Kansas City Chiefs are the lone and only undefeated team left in the National Football League for this season. And there's word out that Kansas City is finalizing a trade for DeAndre Hopkins. How much better could they be at undefeated? And they're going to get even better when they bring D-Hop into the ball game, playing for Kansas City there in Arrowhead Stadium. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Kansas City, let's be realistic here. They have not really played outstanding football. Of course, Patrick Mahomes has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns this year. But see, there's a word called greatness. Greatness means that when you play poorly, you still win. And to me, that means you got a strong locker room and you got a strong head coach. Now the Chiefs going to fix that problem, bring over DeAndre Hopkins. They call him D-Hop out of the University of Clemson. You know he won a Super Bowl ring. And think about this. If I'm not wrong, it's never been a team that's won 3 in a row, 3 Super Bowls in a row, right?
Correct.
Kansas City will be the first team ever. It's history riding on this season. And once DeAndre Hopkins comes into the offense, I guarantee you Kansas City is going to be a very tough team to beat. But I will say this before I turn it back to you, Mr. Harper. That's a team I saw on Monday night with a young man out of the University of Alabama, about 6'3", 250. And the quarterback is playing lights out. If they had the MVP today, you know the team I'm talking about, over in Baltimore. It's going to be very interesting if them and Kansas City meet up in the AFC Championship game. The Ravens are Super Bowl quality. And remember, the last time they won a Super Bowl, guess what city they won it in Ray Lewis last year? The Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned something very interesting also as well to me is that they don't look like they're great, but you know what? Nobody can beat them. Everybody that they've played have just struggled over and over again to try to get their defense to slow Patrick Mahomes and the rest of that Kansas City Chiefs offense down. Their defense is also very good. Well, let's look at a Week 8 preview. We're going to look at some of the teams and the big games that are taking place right now, and we're going to start with Philadelphia. The Eagles at 4-2 will be going into 3-4 Cincinnati. 2 teams that have both tried to right the ship and get things a little bit better. Your thoughts about this one, Vincent?
Huge football game, man. You got the Eagles who 4-2 in the NFC East. East is critical. Jalen Hurts did his job last week. Saquon Barkley had 175 yards against his whole team. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They always start off. They're 3-4 now. This is a critical game. They can't afford no losses. But I will say this. The young man who you mentioned earlier on another podcast, Joe Burrow, is that guy. It seems to me Cincinnati always like to play when the pressure is on. This is a huge football game for both teams, man.
Cincinnati is 0-3 at home this year after going 0-3 in the preseason. They had 2 home games in the preseason, so they're 0-5 in Cincinnati. That's something that I don't think they've had happen in quite a while. Joe Burrow is just starting to wake up in terms of his completion percentage. He's at 70 right now. He's thrown for 1,759 yards. He's averaging 7.8 per reception, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. How do they have 4 losses if he's been playing that well? Jamar Chase, 39 receptions. He has 620 yards. That's number 1 in the league right now. He has 6 touchdowns, which also ranks number 1 in the league. Their passing game is excellent. They're 8th in the league right now at 237 yards. Defensively, they give up 23 points a game. That's number 20, so it's a little outside the box and a big issue for them. But offensively, they're averaging over 25 points a game, and that right now is in the top 10. So you would think that Cincinnati would have an easy time here, but it hasn't been all smooth. It hasn't been easy road for them thus far this season. And Philadelphia is going to try to make it even more difficult. They're 22nd in the league in passing, but guess who's number 2 in the league in rushing? That's the Eagles. They average 166 yards, and Saquon Barkley is on fire, guys. If you saw him last week, he had a great game against his former foes, or the team he used to play for. They're now his foes in the New York Giants in the Meadowlands. That was an interesting concept that he had up there, just running all over the place. 108 carries so far this year, which is ranking 8th in the league right now. 658 yards, which ranks 3rd, and he's got 5 touchdowns so far. So Saquon Barkley is a guy that you got to stop. Philadelphia at 4-2, ending up going to Cincinnati. Next game at 1:00 on Sunday. It'll be on CBS. The 4-2 Baltimore Ravens go against the 1-6 Cleveland Browns. And why would this be a featured game? Well, we know because of what happened last week with Deshaun Watson. He was already having some troubles, but now with that Achilles snapping the way that it did, his right leg when he tried to escape out of the pocket, he is gone for the rest of the season. And there are some people, Vincent, that are saying his career may be in jeopardy as well.
I'm going to say this. I was very disappointed from a standpoint. I followed Deshaun Watson even when he was in high school, and you covered him.
Sure did.
And the one thing, even when he was at Clemson, and I don't know what has happened, all the allegations and what in his past life since he's been in the NFL, but I know this. All I know is what his head coach said about him at Clemson, Dabo Swinney. Class. I tell you a story here on 100 Yards Football, and I wish our producer, Jeremiah Long, was on this screen. Last time they had the Super Bowl in Atlanta, he took a selfie with Jeremiah Long. And Jeremiah asked him, he was class, no problem. Jeremiah, I know, still has the photo. And all I heard from people that know him over there where he's from, Gainesville, Georgia, a very class, quiet guy. And he won a national championship at Clemson. And I don't think he deserved what happened on Sunday, him getting hurt and what the Cleveland Browns fans did. Let me tell you something about Cleveland Nation. That's why you 1-6. See, God don't like ugliness. You haven't had a championship since '64, since the days of Jim Brown, Paul Warfield, and Leroy Kelly. And your team is not getting better. And no disrespect, but we know what Jameis Winston is about. Now getting to the Baltimore Ravens. And I didn't mean that to throw a shot at you, Jameis, but it's just what it is. You was loose with the football in Tampa. That's just how it was. You cost Tampa maybe several playoff spots. Now getting to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, to me, are right now the best team in all of football, even at 4-2. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry have it going on. The other players have stepped up. Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and their defense, Raquan Smith out of University of Georgia. If he's not the best defensive player in the league, I don't know. Monday night he had 19 tackles. And you got to be happy for John Harbaugh, Jim's oldest brother. The Ravens are a Super Bowl quality team. And I'm going to tell you, Kansas City making that acquisition today, they know what they had to do to get strong, because it looked like them and the Ravens are on a crash course to meet in the AFC Championship game. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Yeah, the Ravens start 0-2, and they're 4-2 now, so they've turned it around. Let's look at some of the numbers. 250 yards per game in the air, that's number 6. 210 yards on the ground, that's number 1. They average 31 points a game, that's number 1. They give up 25 points a game, that's 26. So it's offense right now. Once they get that defense turned around a little bit, and you mentioned Roquan Smith, man, they are loaded. Lamar Jackson, 68% right now is completion percentage. He has 1,800 yards. He's averaging 9.1 yards per touch, and 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions right now. Versus Tampa just last week, he had 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. He had a clean slate game against the Buccaneers last week. Derrick Henry, what do you say about that, man? Do you need to impress me? No. But are you going to anyways? Yes. You lead the league with 134 carries so far, 873 yards after 6 games. 873 yards when everyone in the world knows that you're going to carry the ball. You're still number 1 with that. you're the guy. 6.5 yards per carry. You can't stop him. He's unbelievable. Derrick Henry is a man amongst men. Cleveland's going to have to figure out a way to stop him. Their defense right now, they average giving up 23 points a game. That's 18th, but everything else, they are just bad. They just are. They can't throw the ball very well. They can't rush the ball very well. They're not scoring a whole lot of points. So is Dorian Thompson-Robinson going to be the answer? Right now, you said Jameis Winston is. He's in his 10th year out of FSU. I don't know how long the leash is with Jameis. If he makes a few mistakes, do they pull him and go with Dorian? I'm not sure. But we understand that Ken Dorsey right now has been given the green light as the offensive coordinator, and he is going to be the one calling the plays, at least for the foreseeable future. And again, Cleveland, there's a struggle in many, many different ways. They're 0-3 at home. I think they're going to go 0-4. They're not going to get this turned around, at least not against a Raven team, unless Baltimore just folds up the tent and decides not to show up. Our next game at 1 o'clock, it'll be on Fox, is Arizona at 3-4. They take on the 2-4 Miami Dolphins in Miami. I don't know much about this one, but I know that after a 3-4 record right now, you would think, okay, what's going on? Well, guess what? They're only a game out of first place, along with San Francisco in the NFC West.
When I think about Arizona, and you brought up a good point, they're only a game out. But Arizona's kind of quietly been one of them teams we really haven't paid attention to. They had an impressive win over the Rams early on in the season. But Kyler Murray's played well. He played well last Monday night against the Chargers. I believe he had a big-time touchdown run. I believe it was over 50 yards. But I think for the Cardinals offensively, they go to another level. Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie that they drafted, he's got to take his game to the next level. And he's been kind of quiet the last few weeks. Miami. Now, I'm going to ask you, Harper. We know the situation in Miami. Why does Mr. Tua keep playing? That's really a serious, serious matter that's going down in Miami. And if I was the Dolphins, I think I would really look at not letting him get back on the field, man. I heard an interview this past week with Mr. Tua that he had with the doctors that came out of the Miami network. And he was saying that he was tested by some of the greatest doctors in the world, and he's really consoled with his family. But, man, if you see some of the concussions that he's had and how he looked on the field, I go back to Monday night against Cincinnati a couple of seasons ago. He laying up with his fingers, come on, turned all up. The game is not that serious. And, man, to me, you could say you love something, but come on, man, it's common sense now, Mr. Tua. You had a great career at Alabama. You got all the money in the world. Man, you're going to have children someday. And obviously, you're going to want to spend time with them. So, Harper, you being a former player, explain to me, why does he keep continuously going out there playing?
Well, one of the reasons that a competitor competes is because he does something that he's good at.
Okay.
And Tua knows that he's very, very good at what he does, and he can lead this team. But is your health worth it? Only he can answer that. We don't know how serious these injuries have been. We know that they've been very, very cautious in taking care of him and trying to make the brain, when it hits the side of the head, there's a bruise, and a concussion is where the brain bruises. But what are the other ramifications of that? They're called taus, or these tiny little proteins that are a result of that. We can talk about that some other time, but that's going to be a debated question for quite a while until Tua makes that final decision. In the meanwhile, Tyler Huntley at 59%, that's his completion percentage, or Tim Boyle, who's going to shoulder that burden there for the rest of the organization. We know that they can run the ball. They're number 11 right now, Miami, as they average 128 yards per game. They just can't score. They're averaging 11 points per game right now. They're dead last in the league, and their defense gives up 21 points a game. They're 14th. They're in the middle of the place right now in terms of the standings, but it's going to be very difficult for them to figure this thing out quickly and get it turned around the way that they need to. Whether you have Tua or not right now, you've got to figure out a way to put a team on the field that can score, and right now they can't. And you look at defenses, Arizona's not much better. They average 25 points a game, which is below average. They're 24th in the league right now. But what they can do is they can run the football. They average over 150 yards a game. They're number 6, and that's because James Conner. 109 carries right now. He's 5th in the league, 504 yards. which is 6th in the league. We mentioned Derrick Henry's number just a few moments ago. James Conner has 3 touchdowns right now. So interesting game that'll be taking place in Miami. We next look at our 4th game, which is Buffalo at 5-2. They end up going to Seattle. Now, Buffalo comes off a big win last week, but what I think was a bigger win was for Seattle to turn around. After 3 straight losses, they come to Atlanta. They get a road win where they dominate and do everything that you would need to: offense, defense, special teams. They get the ball back. They're able to score some touchdowns. And now they are 4-3, and they're sitting atop because of San Francisco's loss. They're sitting atop the NFC West.
I got to give credit to Mike McDonald, the head coach of Seattle. He's done an outstanding job, man. I didn't see Seattle being the top of the NFC West at this time. And I want to give credit to Geno Smith. About 4 or 5 years ago, we was even questioning whether he still should be in the league. But sometimes you got to land in the right spot, right time, right place, and people believe in you. He's a quality quarterback, man. And DK Metcalf, I don't care what a lot of people are saying. He's not mentioned as one of the top receivers in the game, but, man, he's special. Lee Haney physique. 4 receptions last week, 99 yards, 1 touchdown out of the University of Ole Miss. He's a special football player. The Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, he keep proving me wrong. The only thing Josh Allen has to do is win the big one. But he's over in that tough AFC with 2 other quarterbacks by the names of Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. But by them acquiring Amari Cooper 2 weeks ago and him going along with that rookie out of Florida State, Mr. Keon Coleman, that's a very good Buffalo Bills team. That's going to be a very interesting game with 2 teams that I think have playoff applications. But most of all, I really want to see what Buffalo in this game. This is going to be some competition. Are we going to be mentioning the Bills maybe in that conversation in Super Bowl? Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Yeah, I think they got a lot better. Amari Cooper gets a touchdown in his first game. By the way, Josh Allen, 12 touchdowns, no interceptions so far. His quarterback rating is 77.6. He's number 1 in the league as far as that category goes. They're 18th in the league in passing, but they're number 5 in scoring. They average 28 points a game. James Cook, 82 carries, 341 yards. He has 5 touchdowns. He's number 7 in the league so far, so they can run the ball pretty well. They're just a good football team, and they go on the road in Seattle at Lumen Field. Geno Smith, what can you say? 68% completion percentage. He's 15 yards shy of 2,000 here after 7 games. He has 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His quarterback rating right now is 10th in the league. Geno Smith, as you mentioned just a few moments ago, man, as a Jet, it didn't happen. You give him a new set of sunsets to look at, a new place to play, and he's shining like a star. Kenneth Walker has 303 yards, 6 touchdowns right now. He's 3rd in the league with that. You mentioned DK Metcalf. He's got a strained right ACL. We're probably going to hold him out. At least I would, at least this week and maybe for next week as well. So look for Tyler Lockett to be a guy that is going to be getting targeted a lot more in this upcoming game. The last one that we're going to preview this week is going to be Chicago. 4-2 Chicago Bears. Who would have thought that the team that ended up getting the number 1 pick in the draft would be 4-2 after 6 weeks, including a bye, and they're going against a Washington team which was number 2 in the draft, and they're 5-2. What an interesting game that we have here. One that no one would have thought at the beginning of the year that would have the type of success that we're looking at out of these 2 teams thus far in the season.
I want to give credit to CBS for moving this game from a 1 o'clock kickoff to a 4:30 kickoff, 4:25. You talking about the nation is going to be watching, and I hope for the Washington Commanders. Kudos to Dan Quinn. He's done an outstanding job. I didn't see that coming. Jaden Daniels has really surprised me a lot. I hope you're healthy, man. I really hope you're healthy coming up Sunday. Please play, because we got to see this matchup, man. You against the number 1 overall pick. Washington, man, right now, to me, they're the best team in the East, the NFC East. They're proving it on the field. And Jaden Daniels has been outstanding. Since that Monday night game against Cincinnati, he's probably been one of the top 4 or 5 players in the league. Now to the Chicago Bears. That's my father's favorite team. Who's watching today out of Memphis, Tennessee, Mr. Chester Turner. He's a diehard Willie Gallimore and Walter Payton fan. Caleb Williams. I like to see the people after the first 2 weeks, they were saying he was going to be an epic bust. I know you watching today, so I'm not going to call your name out. You're not writing a lot. You're a writer right now that's writing on all these draft sites. And you was after Caleb Williams. But you're not saying that no more. I noticed Ken Allen is starting to play well. I noticed DJ Moore is starting to play well. I noticed Roma Doozy is starting to play well. And as Harper said, the Bears are 4-2. Well, Caleb Williams is coming home. He's from the D.C. area, Gonzaga High School. I started since his freshman year. And you know he going to be hyped. You know he going to be happy. You know how it is. It's like when I go home to Memphis during Christmas. You don't see friends for years and you get out on great food and everybody want to feed you. Just like you, Hopper, when you go back to L.A., you get the best food. You get the best hugs. Caleb Williams coming back to D.C., I'm going to be somewhere watching it, hopefully at my spot at Buffalo Wild Wings with the Chicago Bears fans. Must-see TV on Sunday, Harper. Back to you.
He might be a little light in the wallet because he's probably going to have to buy tickets for 30 or 40 of his favorite friends and family. That'll be interesting to see how that works out. But Caleb, what an interesting career that he's had thus far after 6 weeks, including the bye. People were criticizing Bears offensive line doesn't have what it takes. He's going to get mauled back there. Guess what he's learned to do? He goes outside the pocket and he's completing big passes. He's getting first downs, 1,300 yards so far. He's got 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. Not bad, but you know what? The result is the defense is playing well. They're number 4 in the league right now, and the offense is scoring 24 points a game. They're in the top 12. How can you complain about that if you're a Bears fan? I think you're on borrowed time right now. You're playing with house money because I think Caleb is much better than what you thought he would be at this time. I know you wanted him at number 1 to be the guy, and he is, but just give him some time to learn the defenses a little bit better and how to beat them and develop a better offensive line over the next couple of years. Watch and see whether the Bears start drafting linemen in the top rounds of their next few picks. DeAndre Swift, 325 yards right now. He's averaging 3.6. He's got 3 touchdowns. But DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Roma Doozy, and DeAndre Swift, they're all averaging more than 10 yards per carry, making it real easy for that offense to keep the chains moving. Jaden Daniels at 75%. What can you say? This rookie is well above average. Oh my gosh, he's doing an amazing job. When I saw him at LSU last year, I go, this guy's different. I watched the way he warms up. I watched the little things that you do, the footwork, the way that he steps into a throw, his follow through, little things that you do, and he does it consistently. He's very observant about what he's doing. You watch him roam outside the pocket. If it breaks down on him and he completes 10, 15, 25, 35 yards, he makes big plays. That's what you want out of your quarterback, and they've got one there in Washington. 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for him. The Washington Commanders are 3-0 at home. They're going to try to be 4-0 after this week. They averaged 31 points in the league. Guess who's number 1 right there? Washington is. Their defense, you give up 25 points. They're 15th in the league right now, but they can also run the ball, 165 yards per game. So Washington is for real right now. Dan Quinn has them believing. So that's a look at the 5 games that we have right now for this week. Anything else, Vincent, that we need to discuss before we turn it over to the rest of the day for folks to get on with their business?
Me being a Cowboys fan and Cowboy Nation, big game on Sunday night as they travel out to take on the nemesis, the San Francisco 49ers, who are in a must-win game. And I'd be wrong if I don't state this. Kenneth Walker that you mentioned, outstanding running back for the Seattle Seahawks. You know where he's from, right? Kudos.
It's got to be from Tennessee somewhere. You wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't from Tennessee.
Kudos to the 901, Mr. Kenneth Walker's out of the state, the city of Memphis, Tennessee. Much love. You're doing your thing out there in Seattle, out there in the Northwest. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Yeah, last week he had his 24th birthday, had 2 touchdowns, and a big game against the Atlanta Falcons. And speaking of which, the Falcons and the Buccaneers playing this week, that'll be for first place in the NFC South. So For Vincent Turner, for our producer, Logan Landers, we want to thank you for tuning in today. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. This is week number 8 of the NFL preview on 100 Yards of Football. Have a fantastic day, everybody.